Hello, this is Luis Martin Domingo, and this is a short presentation of a paper presented at the Multilogs conference July 2018 in Puerto Escondido, Mexico. The title is The Evaluation of the EU Passenger Rights. Ready? Let's go. As a background, I would like to highlight what happens in the US in the late 70s and in the EU in the mid-90s. It was the air transport deregulation. Air transport deregulation led to a clear increase in competition among carriers, which some of them they adopt new business model, such as the airline low-cost airline model. All of that lead to decrease in prices. The EU in 2004 implement a new regulation which aimed to secure the quality of service to passengers. The new regulation was the 261/2004 because it was introduced in 2004 and had four main stakeholders: the passengers traveling with the corresponding airline, and new figure appearing with this new regulation was what is called the National Enforcement Body. Basically, it was a new body created at each member state which should secure the enforcement of this new regulation. Of course, when it couldn't be done in a normal way, the court case was always an alternative as a fourth stakeholder. The regulation was covering three situations: long delays, cancellation of flights, and denied boarding, also called overbooking. So the regulation entitled passengers to be informed, to have assistance in some cases of those incidents, such as, for instance, to have a hotel if your flight was cancelled in the evening, and even to have compensation when some criteria was existing. This compensation was from 250 euros to 600 euros, basically depending on the distance of your flight. And, of course, there were exceptions, such as bad weather or other extreme circumstances, such as strikes. The regulation being implemented in 2004 was followed by evaluation by the European Commission, one in 2007 and the other one in 2010. In both, they found enforcement issues by the National Enforcement Body, as well as the way sanctions were being applied to the airlines. Passengers, in addition, often felt frustration for the complexity and the length of the claim process. The EU also published some statistics in order to make more transparent the new regulation. However, since 2012 until today, not really much was observed about evaluation and statistics being published. So the objectives of this research is to evaluate the functioning of the regulations in the last few years by looking at the different process followed by a passenger who make a claim to the airline, even uses the National Enforcement Body or even using the court in some cases. The methodology used for this evaluation to use a case study which uses data from Spain, one of the member states of the EU, which approximately represent about 20% of the claims being placed in the whole European Union. The data was gathered from a claim company that helps passengers to claim airlines of a 2 years period from August 2015 to July 2017, and use complete claims from those 2-year period. This diagram shows the process of claims following the regulation study on this research. Passengers having an incident use the claim company to claim the airline. When the answer of the airline is not considered appropriate, this is diverted to the national enforcement body who coordinates with the airline to find out what exactly happened, giving an answer of each case. In those cases in which the airline doesn't attend the recommendation of the national enforcement body, a court case can be filed for the complaint. All the complaints which end up with a compensation from the airline end up in this area, and all the complaints which end up without a compensation end up in this other point. Looking at the results, we see that the majority correspond to long delays or cancellation complaints, and just a very tiny number to overbooking. The average time of complaints analyzed was 6 months. Some of them they take longer and some of them they shorter. For instance, the ones that the airline pays without any court case take an average of 5 months, and those claims which have to go through the court case, they take an average of 15 months. So we see here a big difference. All claims analyzed are sent from the passenger to the claim company, who is going to reject up to 9.5% of those, taking an average of 1 month. The other 90% of the claims are sent to the airline. The claims directly paid by the airline or after the national enforcement body has positively comment on the claim are over 53% and take, as we saw before, an average of 5 months. 60.5% of the claims are negatively informed by the national enforcement body, and it takes an average of 4 months. The claims that the airline is not willing to pay, some of them are taken to the court. Those take an average of 15 months, as we saw as well, and represent about 10%, 7.8% being paid by the airline after the court case is being gained by the passenger, and 3% are gained by the airline and they are not being paid. These cases, about 20%, correspond to passengers that they are not willing to file a court case. Following the same diagram, the conclusions are explained here. First, all the green area can be considered that it functions reasonably well when the passenger, claim company, airline, and national enforcement body manage to complete those claims. But, however, those which go to the court case, we believe that should be avoided. Why? Because they take so much time, because there is a huge cost for the passenger, for the country in the legal system, and we find that there is a lack of know-how within the judge about delays, complaints, and so on. So we believe that the key here is the national enforcement body, because it's the expert on the process, and we believe, and this is a very important item, that decisions which are written to the passengers should bind the airline without a necessary court case. In addition, we believe that publishing periodical statistics, even at the EU level, should increase the transparency of the regulation and encourage the airline to perform better. And this is all. Thank you very much. If you are not in Puerto Escondido, just drop me a tweet. And if you are in Puerto Escondido, I will be happy to answer the questions face to face.